Welcome to The Bottom Line. My name is Benjamin Poole.
I'm Dr. B.
All right, so we've got some exciting news. The markets are soaring high. Oh, no.
No, they're crashing,
that's not what happened.
Oh, man, I can't wait to show you these charts on the S&P, the Qs, and the VIX. And what do you have? What are you looking at today?
So we're going to look at Tesla. Man, Tesla had a huge run up, and then, wow, I'm going to show you this huge reversal candle. It's not an engulfing reversal candle, but this is a pretty big candle. I'm also going to go over Bitcoin, and then I've got one other chart for you guys as well. So let's get into this.
Fantastic.
Right?
Let's get into it. Ben,
go
ahead. Why don't you start?
Tesla first, right? So we had this huge move up on Tesla yesterday. So on the back of robo-taxis. That doesn't get Tesla out of the dirt, so to say. But what happened was we had this big rally up. It got up to about 235. In the live day trading room, I was looking for it to pierce or to go back up to $235, and then we're going to take a short. Boy, did I miss the mark on that one. Now it's trading at $214.96. Okay, so now we're looking for some downside targets with this huge red bar candle. The next level of support for Tesla is going to be 200.95. So that's going to be a really key level. So you've got all this price action right here. You've got this green bar candle right here. And then if you notice, you've got this price action right here. So this shows that price has been supported at 200.95. If it starts breaking down, then you've got this upsloping trend line. It takes you back down to the $100 level all the way to here. So you've got these two levels. So this will be the third hit, so you're going to get some support. So I would look for 200 and then maybe about 195 for your first targets of support. And then you could probably get a nice relief rally, probably to the top end, back up to 215. And then eventually, I think once we break this trend line and this trend line, we're going down on Tesla. All right, Dr. B, what do you have?
Talking about going down, the S&P is going down. This is a chart of the SPX, right? And we have a huge double top here at the highs of the charts after a major bull run. What does this tell me? This is likely the top of the markets right here. The other thing I see here, this is a lower high. Anytime you have a double top, that's a big reversal pattern, but then you also have a lower high telling you it's bearish, okay? This is the 50 daily moving average right here, this red line, and you can see that we have very definitively broken down from that. We obviously had a big breakdown here on August 5th. We've reclaimed it, possibly a bull trap above the 50-day moving average, and now we are definitively below and likely headed lower. Now, if you take a measured move on this double top, what you do here is you take the highs here, all right? You drop a line all the way down to this V, and then you take this same line here. You have a neckline right there. You take this same distance, okay? So somewhere around, let's see, 5650, and then also around 5100. So about, what, 550? So 550 below this line is where I see it going. Let's zoom out a little bit here, all right? So let's zoom out a little bit so you can see. And what's interesting is you can see that line right here, okay, brings us down to about 4,500 on the S&P. That's my target, okay, 4,500 on the S&P. I think this is likely, you know, and again, I've been proven wrong before, but I want to see some comments in there. Who thinks the stock market will get above this previous all-time high, right, or the current all-time high, and who thinks that it will go down to 4,500 on the SPX? What do you got, Ben?
All right, so let's go over Bitcoin. So I have this really nice down-sloping trend line. So you've got this pivot high right here, and you got this minor pivot here. And so I extend this out, and you want to line this up with some support. And so 55,144, that was support. It flushed through that. So my secondary level of support on Bitcoin was this level right here. So anytime you have a reversal, so the red candles, they open up high and they close here. So as you can see, price in this candle actually extended all the way down to the $49,000 level, but it closed right here. So anytime you get a close on a red bar candle and it's a large red bar candle, the bottom end is going to be support. And then you've got another additional buying pressure before an extended move up. So when you come back down into it, that is going to be a lot of support. And so right now, although it did pierce my first level of support, my second level of support that I have was 53,990. So if we start consolidating right here in Bitcoin, we are going down. The next level of support I have is 51,760. As you can see over here, you've got a green bar candle and additional price consolidation. And so this is going to be a lot of support for you. And then ultimately, if we can continue to break down $49,000, you have this low bottom right here. If we start getting, again, if we start breaking down, that's where we're going. All right, so if we break to the upside, this move isn't necessarily over. So you've got this down-sloping trend line here, although we're down below it. If we can close inside, then we can start to break above this down-sloping trend line right here, and then we can move higher. And so if it does break out, then my first level is 64,000. And so we're still inside of this wedge pattern, even though we're below. It hasn't actually closed below that level. And so it's anybody's guess right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple days with Bitcoin.
Yeah, very much so. Very interesting. So taking a look at the NDX, okay, this is the index of the NASDAQ, right? The SPX is the index of the S&P. This is the index of the NASDAQ. And what's really interesting here is you have a very large parallel that's been put in here on the NASDAQ. And you can see this is the COVID lows right here, COVID lows. This is the 2022 highs. This is the 2022 lows. And now so far, this is the 2024 highs. And what's really interesting is, again, let's say that you had these pivots, this pivot low, pivot high, pivot low. You could have predicted where the NASDAQ was likely to pull back by drawing a parallel right here and hit it perfectly. There's no doubt about that. So really interesting how technicals work there. What's also very interesting is you have another smaller parallel here, okay? This pivot low, these pivot highs, another pivot high. This is August 5th, right? We had this huge drop on August 5th. We've broken down, retraced now to the midline of this parallel, acted as resistance, and now we've broken down from this rising parallel. Rising parallels tend to break down. Falling parallels tend to break to the upside, just based on probabilities. So where do I have this going on the NASDAQ? Look at my circle here. I drew this probably a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. I have a low here on the NASDAQ of around 14,000. And again, in the comments, I want to hear, are you guys thinking that we're going to break the all-time highs here at around 21,000, or are we going to come down to 14,000 on the NASDAQ? To me, when you take a look at the S&P and the NASDAQ, this is very, very bearish price action. The other thing that you have here, okay, is you have a possible head and shoulders pattern on the NASDAQ, okay? A slightly higher right shoulder here, but again, if you take the measured move, okay, just like we did on the double top, if you take the measured move here from the high to this neckline here, this distance will get us just about there to 14,000. So that's my theory right now.
I was going to say, that's pretty interesting because you've got this pivot low right here too. That's that'll be incredible.
And this pivot high, right? So
yeah, that's it.
Look at that. Look at that right there. Pretty interesting.
You're going to have a lot of support there.
Yep.
See a little bit more cool selling pressure, right? And then a break of it. So what would you do? Would you short it now? Would you wait for a break? Like, do you wait for a break and then a retrace? Like,
yeah.
How do you play this?
Okay. So, the safest way is like you were saying there, right? So you have this break right here, and then the safest play would be right here, entering right here, and then this retrace down. So this retrace is the safest. You can also play the break of this line right here. So let's say it breaks right here. You can short that there. But oftentimes you see a lot of fake outs here and people get whipped out. So really the safest thing to do is buy this retrace and then hold it until, like you said, Ben, there's this support right about here. is probably where I'd take profits. And what's interesting is you'd probably line up pretty nicely with the 200 weekly moving average as well.
What's the red line up there?
Red line is the 50 moving average
Okay.
on the weekly.
So it looks like it's already bounced off the 50 once.
Yeah.
So now are you anticipating a bounce? Because that looks like it's about the neckline, right? It looks like it's about the neckline. So would you go long on this?
What I see here is, you probably have like a brief bounce here and then a rollover. That's what I'm thinking. But who knows? No one knows. It's so tough to say, right?
That's right. Okay. So I almost forgot Nvidia. How can we forget Nvidia, right? So you had this low right here on the 5th of August, and then this huge move up. It was a 40% move. And so what I've done is I've taken a pivot and a fib extension. So you take the pivot low, pivot high, and this gives you the retracement. So this is about 25% retrace. This is a 382, 50%, 618. And then here I've changed, this one was a 786. However, I've changed this to 75, right? So 25% and 75% retrace. We now see things in quarters, and so 75% retrace in our brains, it makes more sense, right, as humans. So look at this. It came all the way down to the 75% retrace, or pretty close. It actually got within like 10 cents of this level. So for me, this is actually a really, really solid level for a bounce. Now, I'm not saying that we're gonna go all the way to all new time highs, but I'm gonna say that we can get back up to this $110 level, $112 level, back to the 50% retrace, and that's actually 110.98 would be my upside target if you can get in at 100.83 or lower. So if it starts going lower than that, you'll want to look for this 886 level. So the 95.31 level would be your next entry. If it does get a bounce, it pulls back, then this will be another support level, right? And then you've got this green bar low right here, which is at $92. So there are some support levels. So if you're a maxi on Nvidia, this has still potential to go higher. I don't think the markets are quite done yet. We're still going to get a couple more bids. And I actually think throughout the rest of the day, you're going to see the market start to float higher and higher. So those are my targets for entries, and that would be my upside target for Nvidia, at least at the current time.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah. So now I'm kind of taking a bird's eye view of the markets today, right? So looking at the SPX, the NDX, as well as the VIX. So the VIX is essentially the volatility indicator of the S&P 500 over the next 30 days. That's what it tends to predict. And actually, there's a common misconception that as the markets fall, the VIX goes up. Actually, as the markets go up, the VIX can also go up. Again, it's a volatility indicator, right? So whenever there's volatility, the VIX can go up. So this is COVID right here. This is the COVID spike right here, all right? This is the, let's see, March 2023 banking crisis spike, all right? This right here was August 5th, okay? August 5th, 2024. And this was the third highest spike on the VIX in 3 decades, okay? So this didn't happen, this happened for a reason, right? This wasn't just a fluke. There was tons of money lost that day and made in the markets. And what we often see is before a big move on the VIX, we start to see it inching up. What's really interesting here is, again, this is the banking crisis, but for the past year and change, we've stayed in this area, okay? Now, look what happened. We had this big spike in the VIX telling us, whoa, something's up. You had the yen carry trade, a lot of leverage in the markets, 0-day options, all of these different things, and now you're seeing the VIX test this level right here at 22. And I think that if you start to see, all right, things are setting up perfectly for a spike in the VIX. Because if you have a double top on the S&P, and we saw that head and shoulders on the QQQ, now you have a perfect setup for the VIX to spike, okay? VIX to spike, this to play out on the QQQ, and this to play out on the SPY, right? So that's what I'm looking at. When things line up like this, usually it starts to play out. So, but again, I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, the whole idea is just to give us an idea of like how the markets are going to play out, right?
yeah.
So
yeah. Very good.
Awesome. So that's all we have for you guys. You guys, please keep in mind this is for educational purposes only.
Yep.
Please do your research. I want to say thank you guys so much for joining us, and
That's the bottom line.